Today, NATO finally decided to respond to Russia after the drone attack on Poland. American General and Supreme Commander of the United Armed Forces of NATO in Europe, Alexus Grynkevich, is taking command of the Western troops, who are being prepared for an emergency deployment to the borders of the Russian Federation and Belarus. Poland is separately deploying 40,000 troops again to the border with Belarus and Russia. In turn, France and the United Kingdom are sending Rafale and Eurofighter jets to the Republic of Poland, and the Netherlands is sending 2 Patriot air defense systems. Measures to protect Poland are being taken simultaneously with the start of the large-scale Zapad 2025 exercises, during which Russia and Belarus will be practicing the use of nuclear weapons and the Oreshnik missile system. In addition, Poland is already sending its soldiers to Ukraine. And most interestingly, on the eve, an American B-2 strategic bomber conducted a test of anti-ship weapons in northern Norway, just a few hundred kilometers from the Russian border in the Arctic. The exercises took place simultaneously with an operation by a United States naval group and their NATO allies in the Barents Sea, where Russian military closely monitored the movements of the ships. Let's analyze the West's reaction and the drone attack on Poland in this episode. My name is Alex Hipechi. Today is September 11th, and before we start this episode, I want to remind you that every day on this YouTube channel, several news analysis segments are released, where we break down events from around the world. So that you stay up to date with absolutely all the news, I recommend subscribing to this YouTube channel and ask you to like this episode. So, NATO has finally decided to respond to the brazen attack of Russian drones on Poland. And now Bloomberg writes that NATO is preparing a military defense response to the incident with Russian drones in Poland. According to the agency's source, there will also be another political response. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and other allied leaders condemned Russia's reckless behavior in their first response on Wednesday. The future operation will be directly coordinated by the Supreme Commander of the NATO Joint Armed Forces in Europe, Alexus Grynkevich. And he is precisely the one responsible for planning and conducting all of the alliance's military operations. And if this message sounds too vague, then it's time to get specific. I'll start with the reaction of Poland itself. Today, Poland closed its airspace in the eastern part of the country near the border with Ukraine and Belarus after Russian drones entered the area. The flight restrictions will remain in effect until December 9 inclusive. This was reported by the Polish Air Navigation Services Agency. It is specified that the decision was made at the request of the Operational Command of the Polish Armed Forces for reasons of national security. These measures will not affect military aviation. An exception has also been made for flights with special status. These are flights by the State Aviation of Emergency Medical Services and other agencies whose involvement is necessary in the event of natural disasters, catastrophes, environmental threats, or emergencies. In addition, flights related to the protection and monitoring of critical infrastructure may also be permitted. At the same time, within the specified zone, the use of any type of drones is completely prohibited. The restrictions followed the incursion of Russian drones into Poland on the night of September 10. And here, let me remind you that at least 19 drones entered the country's territory during the massive attack on Ukraine. To intercept them, in addition to Polish combat aviation, NATO fighter jets were used for the first time since the beginning of the war. As a result, the Polish authorities invoked Article 4 of the NATO Charter, which means that member states of the alliance will consult with each other if their territorial integrity, political independence, or security is threatened. Well, Poland also sent military equipment to the border with Belarus and requested additional air defense systems. By the way, Latvia is also closing its airspace on the eastern border with Belarus and Russia. This was stated by the Minister of Defense of the Republic, Andris Spruts. The restrictions will be in effect until September 18, with the possibility of extension and up to an altitude of 6 kilometers. According to him, This measure will make it possible to expand the capabilities for testing airspace surveillance systems, simulating drone operations and countering them, as well as deploying and training additional mobile combat units. It has also become known that a German military brigade will be additionally stationed in Lithuania on a permanent basis. This was announced today by the Supreme Commander of the NATO Joint Forces, Aleksus Grinkiewicz. But Poland is moving 40,000 troops to the border with Belarus and Russia. In turn, let me remind you, France and the United Kingdom are sending Rafale and Eurofighter jets to the Republic, while the Netherlands is sending 2 Patriot air defense systems. It's important to note that steps to protect Poland are happening alongside the start of Zapad 2025, where Russia and Belarus will practice using nuclear weapons and missile systems. Oreshnik, and these maneuvers will start this Friday and will last until September 16. Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs head Bolshoi Radosław Sikorski previously said their scenario appears very aggressive, and similar to preparations before Russia's invasions of Georgia in 2008 and Ukraine in 2022. According to Warsaw, one of the goals of Zapad 2025 could be practicing the capture of the so-called Suwalki corridor. This is a narrow strip of land connecting Poland and Lithuania, which is squeezed between Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad region. By the way, this territory has long been called NATO's Achilles heel. Polish Deputy Defense Minister Cezary Tomczyk stated that the country's army had been preparing for these maneuvers for many months and conducted its own exercises involving more than 30,000 servicemen together with NATO allies. Poland reminded that Zapad 2025 is, after all, an offensive exercise, not a defensive one. In addition, Poland is officially sending its soldiers to Ukraine to learn from the armed forces of Ukraine how to shoot down Russian drones. This is the result of NATO's preparations. As it became known, back on September 3, an American B-2 strategic bomber conducted a test of anti-ship weapons in northern Norway, just a few hundred kilometers from the Russian border, in the Arctic. The aircraft carried out the release of precision bombs in the Norwegian Sea near the island of Andøya. The exercises took place simultaneously with the operation of a United States naval group and their NATO allies in the Barents Sea, where Russian military forces were monitoring the movements of NATO ships. But what's notable is that 2 types of weapons were used for the tests: the 200-kilogram guided bomb Unit 38 and the guided bomb Unit 31, which weighs a ton. The new system is equipped with a homing head which allows it to hit both stationary and moving sea targets. And it's important to note that it was bombs from this guided bomb unit family that the United States used to bomb the Iranians. And as Newsweek notes, the maneuver has become part of the United States' effort to build up its capabilities to counter maritime threats from Russia and China, who have the largest fleets in the world by number of ships. I'll leave it at that. Share your thoughts on NATO's preparations and response to Russia's provocation in Poland in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.